Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another WARNO devblog. Today we're looking at the new British division, the 2nd Infantry Division. So their first subheading is the Brits return. Alright at ease, chaps, the mighty tank fist of the British 1st Armoured Division is already in the game. Now it's time for their comrade-in-arms, the 2nd Infantry Division, to join them on the battlefield. The formation's history dates back to the Napoleonic Wars, and the 2nd Infantry Division even has the claim to fame of having fought at Waterloo in 1815. After many battles ranging from the Second Boer War to World War I and World War II, where the division saw action in Burma against Japanese forces, the 2nd Infantry Division found itself on occupational duties in northwest Germany. Once again, the formation underwent many rounds of restructuring, going from the 2nd Armoured Division to the 2nd Infantry Division in the early 1980s. The division was also assigned to the British Army of the Rhine, aka the BAOR, the Permanent Royal Army's presence in West Germany. However, instead of being based in Northag itself, the soldiers of the division were found in England, lightly equipped so that in case of war they could be deployed quickly overseas to reinforce the 1st British Corps. The 2nd Infantry Division had a table of organisation and equipment that, in true British fashion, did not resemble the official TONE at all. For instance, the formation had one regular infantry brigade backed up by 2 territorial (reservist) brigades and even 1 engineer brigade. So now we get the 2nd Infantry Division in a bit more detail. After a major overhaul in the early 80s, the 2nd Infantry Division had its sole regular infantry brigade converted to an air-mobile one. What this means in WARNO is that the 2nd Infantry Division will field no regular rifle infantry of its own, but either air-mobile troops or territorial reservist infantry. The engineer forces will in turn come as territorial engineers. I'm not sure why UGen keep calling them terriers. I've never actually heard that term before UGen started using it in their dev blogs. Maybe someone who is more familiar with British military history in this area than me can comment on if terrier is a commonly used term there. But either way, territorial squads are organised along the same lines of the Royal Army counterparts, but reservists haven't transitioned yet to the L85 and L86 family of assault rifles. Instead, these troops retain the old L1A1 SLR battle rifles and the L7A2 and sometimes the even older L4A4 Bren machine guns and Carl Gustav recoilless rifles. These territorial units are veterancy locked to level 1. So trained basically. Looking at the rest of the arsenal for the 2nd Infantry Division, in terms of equipment, it's rather light. No FV432, no Warrior IFVs, or even organic tank detachments. The sole armoured vehicles are the Ferret and the FV721 Fox and the Saxon wheeled APCs. However, it could count on some armoured support from the 3rd Armoured Division, that's the British 3rd Armoured Division, the 1st Corps Reserve Formation, which would detach brigades or even regiments in times of war. For a little bit of historical precedence, in the NATO exercise Lionheart in 1984, the 2nd Infantry Division also had the Heimatsuchen Brigade 53, a German reserve armoured unit, to bolster its forces. With a full-blown Warsaw Pact invasion, it is depicted as in WARNO, then it is safe to assume this would happen again. So while being very light, the 2nd Infantry Division also is very mobile. The territorials can deploy in trucks, but almost a quarter of their infantry will be air-mobile as well, deployable in either the FAC Saxon APC or the Lynx helicopter. Additionally, the formation has a ton of territorial anti-aircraft units, resulting, without a doubt, in NATO's division in West Germany with the most anti-air defense systems. So, what can you actually expect in game? So, logistics-wise, they get the same Rover CP and the Bedford and Chinook supply vehicles, same as the 1st Armoured Division. On top of this, you can also deploy a Gazelle CP, command helicopter, as well as the M577 Armoured CV, courtesy of the attached West Germans. In terms of infantry, it is a very generous category with a wide selection of air mobile units, vanilla command and support versions, deployable in Saxon APCs and Lynx helicopters. Next up are the Terrier squads or territorial squads, which will once more featured in general, command, anti-tank and support variants, as well as engineer squads, which are mostly territorials but come as command and regular variants, so expect satchel charges. These squads can be brought in the battlefield in either a Bedford truck or a Rover Jeep. Continuing with the infantry category, the West German Jaeger squads, regular and command, coming in Unimog trucks, and the M113A1G APCs can be fielded. And thanks to the 3rd Armour Division, there is a single card of armed rifles in a Warrior IFV. Support squads include a Wombat RCL, Milan 1 territorials, so only in Rover Jeeps, and Milan 2 ATGM squads, air mobile, so in a Lynx or Saxon. The West Germans furthermore provide Heimatsuche militia, while the RMP military police keep an eye on the rabble. Cherry on the cake are the SAS commandos in a combat role rather than recon, coming equipped with their now classic Wargame Red Dragon loadout of an AT-4 and Stinger missiles. Artillery, on the other hand, is a little bit light in number, with the 81mm mortar, the Toad L118 105mm, and the Toad 121 155mm howitzer, as well as a few self-propelled M107A2 175mm, lent from the 1st British Corps, and the Bundeswehr providing some additional Tampella 120mm heavy mortars, so this British division will get larger mortars thanks to the Germans. Now, in terms of tanks, this is where things are a little bit weaker. An average number of slots that rapidly rise in cost. With no organic tank formation, the 2nd Infantry Division gets its tanks from 2 other sources. A few challenges come courtesy of the 3rd Armour Division, while the Germans provide more numerous M48A2 GA2. Other vehicles include the German Iltis Milan and the British Rover Milan 2. Recon is not the division's best category. Here you get infantry scouts and only the Ferret and FV721 Fox recon vehicles. Jaeger Aufkul in Aufkul M113A1G can also be deployed, so that means you can have the Jaeger Aufkul in a recon vehicle, which isn't terrible, so yeah, it's not the best, but it'll do. AA is one of the 2nd Infantry Division's most formidable categories, with lots of cheap options and slots. So basically in a team game you're going to want these guys in a support position. But basically you get the blowpipe, the Javelin LML, the tracked rapier units, as well as a towed rapier anti-air system too, which you can see on the screen now. In terms of helos, there are more and cheaper slots compared to the 1st Armour Division thanks to its air mobile brigade. However, the same units are deployable, the Gazelle AH-1 rocket and 2 variants of the Lynx Hellarm. In terms of air, it's an average category with several new loadouts for the Harrier and Jaguar planes, and the Phantom F-3 fighter will also be included. All in all, the 2nd Infantry Division is light and mobile and not meant to engage the opponent in a head-on encounter. Rather, its air mobile component allows for fast strike missions and rapid movement. The few heavy tanks provide an anchor for varied infantry and light tank forces to outmaneuver slower enemies. Add on top of that the Hellborn and anti-air defences, and the 2nd Infantry Division is an agile and versatile formation, flexible on the battlefield. I guess what remains to be seen here is how powerful the territorial forces are, and if they are very weak compared to other infantry divisions as a result of relying on the territorial forces. Obviously, UGen will be aiming to bring in a lot more British forces when they introduce Northag in one of the DLCs, so they're not going to give us everything we want in these divisions for this base game effectively. They're going to want to save some of that to attract us to those DLCs, which is reasonable in my book. I mean, the British were more in Northag than they were in Centag. And that's it, everyone. See you on the battlefield. For those who want to stay around now, please do. I will, as ever, endeavour to put up a few images from Instagram for those of you who do not use it. So first up, we're getting a snapshot of Suchet, which is the Panhard AML, which comes in the 90mm and 60mm variant in this image. This next shot is taken from the Eugen Discord. This is directly from their Discord channel, screenshots only, which they sometimes post on their Instagram. And this was by Max Mix and is titled Soviet Assault. I think it speaks for itself, don't you? Next up, we have this great shot, which is at a brilliant angle, called Going Down, a dramatic view of the Su-25, credit to Drunk AF. Directly from Discord again in the screenshots only channel. Next up we have a short video which I am going to attempt to capture for you all, which is basically showing off some of the new rocket pods and impact effects that they're working on, and that will run for however long it needs to, a couple of times, and then we'll move on. Next up we have another screenshot that has been provided by one of the players, Red Dawn 1984, who basically titles this one The Day After, which is obviously a burnt out forest and a burnt out grad launcher. A rather depressing scene if ever I saw one. Next up is another screenshot by one of the community members. This one is by Villas. I don't think it particularly has a title, but Eugen say, do you hear Paint It Black by the Stones? And yet again, another screenshot by the community. I think Eugen are bored of making their own screenshots this week. This one is French anti-tank spearhead heading to the front line, followed by some flak. This was by El Watan from the Discord server. Next up is an image by community member. I'm going to call you Nick because your name is long and I don't know how to pronounce it and I don't want to butcher it. So Nick, this is a close air support protecting a BMP-2 column approaching the front line. Next up we have a shot of a very big artillery piece. I assume this is the new 175mm gun. It just says new devblog today. That's all they say. Next up is the Skyflash medium-range semi-active radar homing air-to-air missile. It's quite a nice shot, to be fair. This is actually one of theirs as well. I don't think this is from the community for a change. This is, next up, a lovely shot of the new towed rapier system. Obviously, we've seen a shot earlier in the video, but I just like the title here. My name is Rapier. You killed my cap. Prepare to die. And that's all, folks, for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for some more WARNO, probably over the weekend.